What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Garage 23. And if you're wondering why the picture quality is a little funny, it's because you're watching this on our brand new JOYING 11.6-inch Android head unit. You can do all kinds of cool stuff like play Spotify, YouTube, and even Crunchyroll. And with additional accessories, it can even support a front and rear camera and even tire pressure monitoring. Now for a word from our sponsor. We don't have any sponsors. Okay, bye. No! Anyway, today's a pretty big day. We actually crossed over 500 subscribers. That's crazy to think that 500 people have been watching us and don't think I'm a total idiot. And if you do, you enjoy it and you still follow. So that's awesome. Thank you guys. We'd also like to thank Austin, who's been one of our biggest supporters. So if you're into like Toyotas and Lexuses and cars of that flavor, go check out his channel. But in the meantime, we're going to get started installing this JOYING 11.6-inch 1080p 4GB RAM 64GB hard drive head unit in our car. So let's get started. Hajime-yo. So I've been driving around like this for the past few months now, I guess. Just listening to the glorious symphony of trumpets that is the VQ35. I used to have this, this is an Eonon 10.1-inch Android radio. And it was like $300 when I got it. And it didn't work all that well. I always wanted like this kind of tablet screen, but all the ones from like US manufacturers are like over $1,000. And they still didn't have the functionality that I wanted. And these Chinese tablets are the only ones that like actually have like decent repertoire of features that are useful nowadays. But when I got this one, I felt like the technology just wasn't quite there. Like you could tell like there's potential and it was going somewhere, but it just they just couldn't quite bring it together yet. And one of the main reasons I took this one out is because the joint that they used to attach the screen broke off. So then the screen was just kind of dangling there. But luckily, technology has progressed pretty rapidly in the past few months or a couple of years, I guess, since I got that. And it's up there. We got a brand new radio from JOYING. JOYING. Yeah, apparently JOYING is one of the higher end ones that they use like nicer components and all their stuff. Like this radio, for example, even has an optical out, which is pretty nice as far as sound quality goes, but I don't think it's all that useful. I don't think I've ever seen an amp or anything with the optical plug. But they even have like Snapdragon processors available in some of their radios, which is like that's basically a high-end phone. So they don't really skimp on parts and their screens. Like I said, this screen was like 480p or something potato quality like that. This is a full 1080p screen and it's IPS rated and everything. So it's like, it's basically a tablet, like an actual tablet. So let's do a little unboxing right here. I guess this is the screen. Yeah. As you can see, it's slightly bigger than our old one. So our old one was a 10.1 and this is a 11.6. So we've got like an extra 1/4 inch on the sides, extra 3/8-ish top and bottom. So hopefully it doesn't look too out of place. Actual glass panel, nice metal trim. Let's compare to this hunk of junk. And this one actually even cut me because the edges aren't even like sealed to the unit. But yeah, this is much nicer. The only part, in my opinion, that's a little janky is the mounting system that they're using. Like, it's nice in the sense that it seems like it's like quick release, like you just pop it on and pop it off. So when you like parked somewhere sketchy, you can just yank the panel off and either take it with you or hide it or something. But it doesn't seem like it leaves any room for adjustment. So it's just gonna be flat no matter what, as opposed to where even that one, you could like tilt it around somewhat. Granted, that's the part that broke on it, and that's what led to me trying to fix it and ruining it, but so I'm kind of thinking of trying to put it up here somewhere, because before I had it down here, and even as big as a screen as that one was, or this one, it's still kind of out of your line of sight, especially for like a rear view camera, or I have a front camera on this too. It's just kind of inconvenient to have to like look down here. So I'm gonna try to see if I can mount it up here in place of the AC controls and see how that goes. Because this would be a much more convenient place to have a screen. Just like pretty much all new cars with tablets in them, they just have a big honking tablet just sticking out of the dash. So let's try and mimic that, I guess. But let's finish unboxing stuff. See what else we got. So this is our main unit here. As you can see, there's a pretty long ribbon cable that attaches to the screen. And then these are the parts that the plugs on the back of the screen slot into. Another nice thing about these newer units is that they come with a spot for a SIM card. So you can get a SIM card from your phone carrier and pop it in, and your unit will have internet connection. That was one of the big things that I thought was missing from the other one, because it has all these functions that need internet, but it wants you to connect to Wi-Fi or something, so you were forced to either tether off your phone, which that connection kind of sucked usually, or have Wi-Fi, which pretty much only useful if you're in the garage. So that was kind of dumb, but now you can just pop a SIM card into it and you're ready to go. So we'll probably be trying that out too. And this unit also actually has CAN bus connectivity. So for example, if your stock stereo displayed any sort of vehicle information, like the AC controls or tire pressure monitoring, engine warnings or anything like that, you could connect that to this unit and it'll still display on the screen whatever, you know, the factory one needed to display. So that's really nice. And also it's a single DIN unit. If you guys didn't notice, the old one is a big 2-DIN unit, but still pretty much same amount of connectivity stuff. You have video in, video and audio in, audio out, and I believe these are for a subwoofer. And we got one box left. This is gonna be all our antennas and harnesses and stuff. And this unit already came pre-wired for some kind of car. I don't know what the heck kind of plug that is. It doesn't look familiar to me, but yeah, if your car has that plug, then you're already all set. They also sell individual harnesses for specific cars too. So you could order, say, a specific harness for a Nissan or Toyota or anything like that. But luckily I already had the old harness, so I'm just gonna use that. And we got a couple of, I think these are the 4G antennas. I'm not sure why there's two, but there they are. And we got a microphone. This is a pretty huge mic. So I think they expect you to like clip that onto your sun visor or something. Probably won't be doing that. I don't know, we'll see what the sound quality is like with the onboard mic. I think it has an onboard mic on the screen somewhere, but we'll see. If not, we might have to just hide this somewhere. Right here's probably a good spot behind the, I think this used to be for the AC or something on older Altimas. It's like a little vent in the dash that I wasn't quite sure what it's for, but might be able to stick that behind there. We'll see. And then you get a couple of extra, these little yellow banana plug things. I'm guessing because they probably break. So it's good that they include some extras. We got our GPS antenna. This also feels much nicer than the one that came with the old one. It's like kind of heavy. And a couple of USB extensions. This unit has 2 USB plugs on the back of it. So I guess this is if you want to run them further out under your armrest or something. And that's pretty much it. We got some instructions. Actually, they seem pretty decently translated. Bluetooth pairing guide. I think we are ready to begin. Okay, so first thing we want to do before actually tearing anything apart is make sure this thing works. So what I'm going to do is plug in this screen. And see, that's what I mean. There's no tilt or anything to this. It's just straight perpendicular to the unit, and that's what you get. So I don't know if this is going to be an issue, but it seems like the plugs that hold these clips in are removable. So if you're so inclined, you might be able to just make some kind of custom mount, like plate, and then screw these onto it and have a different fixed position to your liking. We'll have to see how this works first. All right, now let's see if it turns on. Ooh. Nice. Oh, that is way smoother than the older one. Okay, well, enough screwing around with it. It works. Let's take it apart again. Okay, so first thing we need to do is take the interior apart. All right, so now we have more access to this, but I want to take this off and see if we have any way of mounting the unit up here and switching this to down here. Probably not going to be simple, but let's see what it looks like. And that's that. The HVAC controls are also just held in with Phillips screws. So I have 4 Phillips screws. So what I want to do is get this guy down here and see if we can get this guy in here. I mean, it fits, sort of. But another issue is, will all these reach down there? Might be in luck. Might just have to separate this hazard switch out of the loom to keep it up here. And also, do we have room up here for this thing? I'm gonna call that a maybe. Okay, so we got a bit more room for activities now. We just need to try and separate this wiring harness for the hazard switch from this harness, because we need this one to stay up here, and we need to try and see if these will reach down here so we can put the HVAC controls where the stereo used to be. So let's just cut the tape off. All right, so we're gonna have to see if this is gonna be long enough. We didn't need that anyway. Okay, So those reach down there, but you also need the stereo cables to reach up here. This is actually a lot less trouble than I was expecting. So there's our stereo plugs. It's a little tight, but like I said, we still have the harness from the stereo that can reach there just fine. And then our antenna. Ta-da! Now to attach this guy here. I'm not so sure. The stereo came with one of these little clip things that most stereos come with, but this doesn't quite fit in here. All right, so we gave this guy a little quick sanding on the edges here. And I think that's gonna be just enough to, yeah. So now, these little brackets always come with a bunch of little tabs they're supposed to fold over. And hopefully at least a few of these will lock this thing in place. All right. You know, this is going a lot better than I was expecting. So we got those tabs folded over. Seems pretty secure. Now, need to connect all the antennas. This is our GPS antenna, and I'm just gonna put this one where the airbag used to be. Then we got two, I think these are for the 4G, I guess, if you have a SIM card. I just put a SIM card in the little slot too, so hopefully we can check if that works. I'm not sure why there's two, so I'm just gonna put them in different spots. So I'm gonna try and put this one on this side. This is the only unfortunate thing about these kind of kits, is that you're just left with a bunch of extra slack in all the wiring, and you can't really shorten it at all. Okay, so we got most of the wiring run for our sensors and antennas and whatnot, and I was gonna try and reuse this old connector that I had from the last stereo, but it's kind of, oh, you can see it's pretty janky. But also, this new stereo has the reverse camera wired into this main plug also. So that's a pretty big difference. And that means we can't really use this one, which is fine, because I have some brand new plugs that I never used before, just laying around. So we're gonna use these and this one and put them together. And this is pretty applicable to basically any car. This is pretty much how you wire in a new stereo on just about any car, well, any older car actually. And in most new cars you can't even put a stereo in, but yeah, anything pretty much pre-2005-ish, somewhere, something like that. So we're gonna solder these together, we're gonna do it properly, no little butt connectors like on this one. So first thing we're gonna do is get some heat shrink out, because the last thing you want to do is solder something together and then realize that you forgot your heat shrink and have to take it apart. It's happened to me a number of times. Okay. So much for quality, we got nothing but aluminum wiring here. It's not ideal, but it's a pretty short run, so it doesn't make a huge difference. All right, we got our nicer wiring harness now. And I know I said no butt connectors, but I ran out of spades and had to do what I had to do, so don't judge me. I brought the other plugs back down here. I want to see if, because it was kind of tight up here, so I want to see if with this extra length we can just keep these plugs down here and just wrap the head unit plug around to the top.
I guess that works. So now, this plug is for our reverse. And then this plugs into here. So this gives the rear camera 12 volts, and that's what turns it on and then sends the feed back through this wire to the head unit. And that'll give you the image on the screen. And same with this plug, except I didn't have a trigger wired in here. The camera in front, I just got a 12 volt source that was on with the ignition switch to turn the front camera on. So it's pretty much just always on when the car is on. How I had it set up before was I had one of the steering wheel buttons mapped to the video in for the head unit. So that way when you're driving and when you're about to park, you just press the button on the steering wheel and that'll bring up the video input, which I have wired as the front camera. So it makes it a lot simpler and quicker to turn the front camera on when you're about to park, and you can avoid smashing your lip or front bumper into the curb. So this is a lot nicer and quicker than having to screw around in the menus to bring the front camera up. All right, so we got our microphone, antenna, cameras, antenna. Yeah, I think we're pretty much ready. And our SD card is probably bouncing around in here.
Gonna need to get some kind of adapter for this because my SD card or SIM card is a little too small to stay in place.
USB cable. This one, I'm not sure where we're gonna put it. But just bring it down here for now.
Now I think we're ready.
This is absolutely the most packed stereo that I've ever seen as far as like stuff that plugs into it.
You just want to be careful not to like stretch any wires too much, like not to pull on them too hard, because then you might be like cutting the insulation off, like if it's rubbing on something, and then you could cause a short that way. So you just want to be careful of stuff like that. Just make sure all your wires have enough slack in them.
Ooh. I think that's more like it. Goes like that. Ta-da! Full of fingerprints everywhere. Okay, so let's see if we can get some music going that won't get us in trouble. Not that we're monetized or anything.
So like I said, it actually sounds really nice. One of the upgrades on these newer units is that they have a digital sound processor, like a dedicated processing chip for the audio. And the older ones, I don't know how they work. I don't know what the difference is exactly, but this is better, and you can actually hear the difference. This is significantly better than how the old one sounded. And it has a dedicated EQ. So it's like all the settings you'd find in like a higher end head unit.
I don't know my speakers sounded this good, honestly. All right, now I gotta put everything back together. Still haven't really figured out what to do with the AC unit, but another big plus and big motivator to putting the screen up here is I can have my cup holders back. So that's nice. Okay, so I got some of the wiring cleaned up. I zip tied some stuff away in here and it looks a little neater. I got the SIM card installed properly and that's actually working. So now we got to deal with the AC unit. And when I was trying to mock it up in here, I broke one of the clips off. So I was like, well, it's already broken, might as well chop everything else off. I sanded off another one of the tabs here and the one that broke off here. These are what held it to the original trim. So we're gonna try and mock this one up.
Gross.
Here. So that's where we need it to go. But it doesn't quite fit with these brackets on here. But I think if we just wedge it in there, it might be fine. Actually, that's pretty snug. Good enough. And cup holders. Yeah, it looks like it should have come like that from the factory. All right, so we're pretty much all done. We got everything buttoned back up and put back together. And I gotta say, I mean, I said it before, but I expected this to be a lot more work. And especially switching the HVAC and the stereo, I expected at least cutting some wires and lengthening them or soldering stuff back together, but it was all super easy. There's more than enough space behind everything to route the wiring, and it all worked out really well. Like, everything still works. This is actually like really secure, like it's not flopping around or anything, so super happy about that. As far as fit and finish, it just barely clears the dash here. If you stand at the wrong angle, you can kind of see a little bit of the frame of the unit itself on the back, so I might have to come up with something to cover that or make it look nicer. But in all, I'm super happy with how it looks, and much happier with the placement of it as opposed to it being down here like I had it before. This is much more useful and easier to see. Super happy about that. And we also got everything working, so I put an extra SIM card that we had in there, and as you can see, we have 4G connectivity and Wi-Fi. This also has 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, so if you're into that kind of thing, it's a little nicer than the 2.4 gigahertz. So there's that. We also have our front camera hooked up. So that's our front view. And then we have our rear view camera. So that's pretty cool. We also have our GoPro software here. So this is pretty convenient when we're out doing like rolling shots or something. We can have our GoPro connected to the screen instead of our phone and have a nice clear preview of what we're trying to record. And we can set it like while we're driving, so that's kind of cool. Not me, of course, but whoever's recording.
Excuse you, it's me.
We got some Crunchyroll and latest episode of Attack on Titan, which broke Crunchyroll. But yeah, and then you got Spotify, of course, which we're not gonna play because issues. But anyway, one thing I will note is that this is the 4 gigabyte unit, 4 gigs of RAM, right? And that's pretty much what most of them start out at. Most of JOYING's units anyway. If you go to some of the other brands that are a little cheaper, they might have 2 or 3 gigs of RAM. definitely gotta say 4 is definitely the minimum, because what they don't tell you about the 4 gigs of RAM is that half of that's already used up by the OS. So you don't actually have a full 4 gigs. You have maybe 2.5-ish. So they offer models with more, obviously, but they're a little more expensive. And I was gonna buy their newest one, which has 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gig hard drive, but that one was $530, but it also wasn't available as quickly as this one was. This one Amazon had in stock and they literally delivered it the next day. So, and I'm impatient, and that kind of had a lot to do with my last minute decision, but I also wanted to try out and see if the 4 gig was adequate compared to what I had before, which is, I think it was probably a 2 gig unit. I don't even know. That one doesn't even say, it doesn't tell you how much it is. So, and this one, I definitely feel now that the technology is definitely there. Like this, so far it works really well. It's very smooth. It hasn't like gotten stuck or anything like that. This one feels really nice to like, when you're like touching the buttons and stuff, it feels like a phone, right? It doesn't feel like something that's trying to be a phone. So I think that's my favorite part about it so far. And we have all our steering wheel controls all mapped out already. So I have, these are all the options it gives you, right? So you just hold the button down and then press whatever function you want that button to be. So it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward to set up. And I have one of the buttons set for mute, so when you're trying to order your chicken nuggets, it's nice and quick to shut the stereo up, place your order, and turn it back on. And then we have, of course, our volume down, volume up. Got our home. And then one of the key things that I wanted to retain was the ability to set the video input on the screen to the steering wheel controls, so that way when you're parking, you just press, I have it set as the source button, but that brings up the video input, which is set to our front camera, so we can park without smashing our front lip or front bumper on anything. And then last but not least, the stock voice command button is set up to use our voice commands. All right, so in conclusion, I think this is a great value, especially when you compare it to some of the more mainstream units from like Sony and Kenwood and stuff. I mean, they're $1,000 and over, and they don't have this kind of functionality. They have Android Auto and, you know, Apple CarPlay and stuff, which this also has, by the way. If you connect your phone through the USB, this will bring up Android Auto just fine. But the big leg up that these have over those Sony units and Kenwood and Alpine and all that is that this is Android in itself. So you don't need Android Auto to piggyback onto it. And especially having its own SIM card, it has its own data connection. It can do everything on its own. It doesn't need your phone for anything, and you don't need to connect it for anything. You can just play Spotify off the system on its own, which that's a huge game changer. You don't have to use the data on your phone or anything like that. You don't have to worry about the lag in connectivity between your phone and the unit, because that's how Android Auto works, and CarPlay, it's piggybacking off your phone. So there's some lag in that data transfer from your phone to the unit, and there's none of that here. Especially for the price, you know, $430 to $470, big 2 thumbs up in my book. And if you guys are interested, we're gonna put the information for this down below, so you guys can check them out. Obviously not a sponsored thing or anything. I'm just super happy with this unit, especially coming from the Eon head unit that we had before. But I just went with the JOYING one because I heard from a number of people that this is, despite the name sounding a little more janky, it is actually one of the higher quality units, and that definitely shows. You know, this is just a huge step up from what we had before. So thanks for checking out this video. And in the next one, we're probably going to be installing the tire pressure monitors, as well as going to be running some of the USB cables a little more presentably to the front here. And yeah, look forward to those. Thanks for watching.